Services sometime between now and I think June 30th supposed to put out a revenue ruling on the employee benefits. Most people think it'll deal with Aviva and probably stop loss, and also do the cell regs and Series LLC that we talked about. I think we talked about cell taxation. I think both this morning and today.
This afternoon, yes.
There's the grandfather. Oh yeah, now we're talking about a couple of things that have come out in the last few months. Here you have a company. We had two obligor companies that were selling vehicle service contracts. And we called them obligor companies for two reasons. One, that's what they called them in the ruling. But more to the point, they're not, all they are, they have an obligation. They are not insurance companies. They're not regulated by the insurance department. They don't have a license. They just have an obligation to provide services on vehicles under those terms. Where in some states where they had to get a front, they got a front or they put up a surety bond. And the service said, this meets all the tests, all these insurance tests. It's got risk shifting, it's got risk distribution, it's an insurance risk, and common notions of insurance, notwithstanding the fact that it didn't have a license. And so the obligor companies are taxed as insurance companies, and this was kind of interesting. If you look at the revenue rulings tell you that you can contract out for your services. So it's perfectly okay to have USA Risk do your captive management. The service will sometimes come in and try to hassle you and say, you don't know anything, you meaning the captive don't know anything about insurance, none of the directors know enough about insurance. How can you be a real live, honest-to-God insurance company? You don't have any employees, you don't have any marketing staff, you don't have any policy directors. But there are some, and I'm fighting this battle right now, but there are some revenue rulings that say, you can contract out the services. This is the only one that I'm aware of that allowed, that spoke about an administrative charge for the overhead back to the parent. So that's an internal charge for that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
What, can you go back?
Yes, I can.
Did you just mention that you're fighting that same issue?
I'm fighting the issue about I have a captive and it doesn't have employees, okay. It doesn't have marketers.
Not the administrative charge piece.
Correct.
Okay.
I am not.
Because I am fighting that one. I'm just wondering if it was becoming a coordinated issue type thing.
No. Okay, here's one that's a little older than that. It was a regular corporation, again, not licensed by the state. It provided roadside assistance and fuel and coolant. And the people, these were risk-based. So the taxpayer had a bunch of unrelated tow companies out there that performed its services, like a health insurance company that had networks out there. And it also had some people for whom it, on a fee-for-service basis, it just allowed its network to be used. But most of this was for people for whom it bore risk, and so it solicited people directly. This was a benefit on the MasterCard, say. He had and maybe the travelers of the world might contract through this. Mm-hmm. And what they said was, because most of the business was insurance and it was risk-based, this was an insurance company, notwithstanding the fact